The first feed that comes back online shows her the garden. It is burning. Not the building, not yet, but the eastern garden that Queen Thessavara has walked every morning of her reign. The one with the pale stone paths and the water feature her children call the singing fountain, is on fire. The ornamental trees are torches. The fountain has gone dark. And across the white marble terrace at the garden's edge, in the orange light of burning things, there are bodies. Royal Guard armor. She can identify it from orbit. "Get me internal feeds," she says. "My queen. Communications are still dash. Get me internal feeds." Her transport is already burning hard through re-entry. The diplomatic summit she left 9 days ago is now the furthest thing in the galaxy from her mind. Her advisors are moving, speaking, doing the administrative scramble of people who understand that a queen's children are in danger, and that the correct response to a queen whose children are in danger is, move fast and stay out of her way. The internal feeds come back one by one. The throne room, empty. Overturned furniture. Scorch marks. The administrative level, Pravitha's people. Lord Council Pravith, who has served her court for 12 years and smiled at her children at every formal dinner, standing in her throne room with her head steward in restraints and a document in his hand that she recognizes. The instrument of regency, the legal mechanism that transfers power when the royal line is interrupted. She does not scream. She files this information. The nursery feed comes back last. 14th floor, Eastern Tower. The corridor outside the nursery is, she counts. She cannot help counting. 17 of Pravitha's soldiers in the corridor, in various states of incapacitation. 2 more being dragged away by their companions. Equipment on the floor. A door, her children's door, with significant damage around the frame, like something fought very hard to keep it closed and something else fought very hard to open it. The feed inside the nursery is not working. Damaged. Dark. Casualty report on the nursery wing, she says. Her voice is iron. Now, my queen. We have no confirmation on the children's status dash. I'm not asking about the children. She is staring at the corridor feed, at the 17 incapacitated soldiers, at the unmistakable pattern of a space that has been fought through. I'm asking about whoever did that. Silence on the bridge. We have no identity on the combatant, the advisor says carefully. Nursery staff records show one assigned caretaker, a human, Marcus Calloway. Labor Consortium dash. How long? She says very quietly. Has he been alone in there? The advisor checks. Based on the communication blackout timeline, approximately 4 hours, my queen. 4 hours. She stares at the 17 bodies in the corridor. Burn the re-entry, she says. Full thrust. Now. She is coming home. She does not yet know what she will find. But whatever she is about to discover about a quiet human man who everyone in her palace forgot to remember, it has already changed 17 soldiers' understanding of what a human caretaker is. She is about to have hers changed too. 3 weeks before the coup, Marcus Calloway broke a man's arm. Not intentionally. Not in anger. He was carrying a supply crate through the loading dock on sublevel 2 when a courier's hovercart malfunctioned and slewed sideways, and the courier, a young Velcarith male, maybe 20 in human equivalent years, moving fast and not watching where he was going, came around the corner at full stride and walked directly into Marcus's path. Marcus sidestepped. He is always sidestepping. 14 months of living in a Velcarith household has made him expert at calibrating his movement, the precise adjustment of force and trajectory required to exist in 0.6 gravity with a body engineered for 1.0, without accidentally demonstrating to everyone around him exactly what that differential means in practice. He sidestepped. He caught the courier with his free hand to stop the young man falling. The grip was gentle. Marcus is always gentle. He has been practicing gentle for 3 years. It was still enough. The courier's wrist made a sound. Nothing catastrophic, a hairline fracture, diagnosed later as requiring 3 days in a Regan sleeve. Marcus had apologized extensively. The courier had stared at him with the expression of someone whose nervous system was filing an urgent report about what had just happened and could not quite reconcile it with the source. The incident was noted in Marcus's file. Exercise caution with physical contact. Terrestrial gravity differential. A reminder, as if a reminder were necessary, that a human body in a Velcareth space is a specific kind of problem that everyone acknowledges and no one fully believes. Head steward Voronel had summoned him afterward. "You understand," Voronel said, with the careful patience of someone explaining something to a large and potentially dangerous pet. "Why physical restraint around palace staff is important." "I wasn't Marcus had started. The courier's wrist. "I caught him. Gently. Gently." Voronel had repeated the word with the expression of someone tasting something unusual. "You are aware of your gravitational differential." "Yes." "Then please be more careful." Marcus had looked at Voronel for a moment. Then he said, "Of course, head steward." He did not mention that the catch, the specific motion, the precise application of exactly enough force to stop a falling body without adding injury, had required more conscious control than anything else he had done that week. That walking through the palace every day, lifting the children, shaking hands, moving through doorways at a pace that wouldn't raise eyebrows, was a constant low-level exercise in restraint that his colleagues would never have to think about because the world was built for them. He did not mention this because it was not useful information for Voronel. He went back to the nursery. "His name is Marcus Calloway and he has a file and the file has a gap. It is a 2-year gap. The dates line up correctly. The employer is listed correctly, a security contractor organization registered with the consortium whose paperwork, if anyone examines it carefully, has the specific quality of paperwork that has been constructed by professionals who are very good at constructing paperwork. The role is listed as logistics specialist. The location is listed as various. Nobody in Thessavara's administrative office had examined it carefully. Why would they? He was a caretaker posting. Consortium certified, background checked, reference letters from the Vega Colony Children's Facility where he had worked for 2 years prior. That posting was clean, genuine, unambiguous. Children who had loved him. Administrators who remembered him as patient and reliable and unusually good at the work. The gap before Vega Colony. 2 years. Logistics specialist. Various. What is in the gap? Marcus Calloway was born in Asheville, North Carolina, in the Blue Ridge Mountains of a country on the 3rd planet of a system that the Galactic Consortium Survey Division has classified without hyperbole as a Class 9 death world. 1.0 gravity standard. 71% of the surface covered in a corrosive salt solution. Atmosphere with enough oxygen to sustain continuous combustion. Tectonic plates in constant slow, violent rearrangement. Macrofauna operating on an evolutionary arms race so aggressive that even the planet's herbivores can kill a grown Velcareth in under 4 seconds. He grew up in the mountains. He hiked before he could read. He could field dress a deer at 12, which would mean nothing to a Velcareth except that it requires knowing where the vulnerable places are and how to use a blade in cold conditions with bloodied hands. And this is the kind of knowledge that transfers. He joined the United States Army at 18. He was selected for special operations training at 21. He served in locations that the United States government does not formally acknowledge under programs that do not appear in public records, doing work that the gap in his file describes as logistics. He left the Army at 28. He spent 6 months in Asheville. He hiked a lot. He saw a therapist who was very good at her job and who helped him understand what he wanted his life to look like going forward. What he wanted was small, quiet, the specific satisfaction of taking care of something that needed taking care of. Children. He had always been good with children, always had the patience for it, always found the work meaningful in the way that some work is meaningful and some work is simply work. He got the Xenopediatric certification. He took the Vega Colony posting. He was very good at it. He is very good at this. He is also, by the training and experience of those 2 undocumented years, one of approximately 300 humans in the galaxy who carry a specific set of skills that do not appear on any consortium certification. He has spent 14 months hoping he would not need them. This morning, the morning that everything breaks, he needs them. He is feeding Sorvain her morning meal when the palace dies. Not all at once. Not dramatically. It is a sequence of small failures that a different person might not notice for several minutes. First, the ambient lighting shifts from standard to backup. A half-second flicker, barely perceptible. Second, his comm badge goes from active green to standby amber. Third, the ventilation changes pitch. Not stops, changes. The air handling system has switched to local battery power, which runs the fans at 80%, and 80% has a different acoustic signature than 100%. Fourth, silence in the corridor outside, where there should be the routine sounds of guard rotation boots on marble, the murmur of professional conversation, the specific creak of body armor when someone shifts their weight. There is nothing. Marcus sets down Sorvain's food. He does not move quickly. He does not alarm the children. He simply sets down the food and picks up Sorvain and carries her with him to the window, where he stands for a moment looking at the eastern garden, which is, at this moment, still perfectly normal. He has 47 seconds of normal remaining. At 47 seconds, the amber alert on his badge flickers once and then goes completely dark. Someone has cut the internal communications. Marcus has spent his entire professional life performing an assessment called a threat evaluation, a rapid sequence analysis of available information that produces a prioritized action list. He has performed it in conditions ranging from a mountainside in a country he cannot name to a crowded market in a city that does not appear on public maps. He performs it now in the nursery, holding the Queen's youngest child. Available information: communications down, power partially disrupted, guard rotation silence, palace security alert at amber before comms cut. Conclusion: organized, coordinated internal breach. Not a systems failure. Not a drill. A coup. Timeline: if communications were cut first, command structure is already disrupted. Means the outer guard is compromised or neutralized. Means the nursery corridor, which has 4 guards, is one of the next targets. Time to contact: 3 minutes. Maybe 5 if they are methodical. Action list: first, secure the children. Second, secure the room. Third, prepare. Fourth, survive long enough for help to come. He carries Sorvain to her siblings. Morning drill, he says with the exact tone he uses for genuine drills, which he runs every 3 weeks because he has always run drills, because this is simply the kind of person he is, and because 14 months ago when he first walked into this room he identified 6 things that could go wrong and prepared for all of them. Liara looks up from her learning panel. The lights changed, she says. Yes, Marcus says. Drill positions. This isn't a drill, she says. 7 years old. Queen's eyes. She sees everything. No, he says. It's not. Positions anyway. She moves without another word. Takes Sorvain from him. Takes her brother's hand. Moves to the interior corner with the old hardwood cabinet. She has done this enough times that the motion is automatic. Marcus watches her go and feels something solidify in him, the specific resolution of a person who has fully accepted the situation and moved past the option of not being okay with it. Then he goes to work. He has approximately 4 minutes. He uses all of them. The maintenance closet adjacent to the nursery kitchen contains the manual override panel for the floor's emergency systems. Marcus has known this since his 3rd day in the palace. He has known the location of every emergency system, every maintenance access point, every manual override in the nursery wing since his 1st week, because he cataloged them the way he catalogs everything. Quietly, completely, without announcement, he engages the maglock on the main door. Thunk. Heavy. Solid. The sound of something serious. He goes to the window. Manual exterior shutters. Original construction. Dense hardwood. He swings them closed. Bars them. He goes to the secondary door that connects to the old guard station. Locks it. He goes to the kitchen. The kitchen contains a commercial heating element, a pressurized cooking gas canister, industrial cleaning supplies, 3 canisters of children's sculpting compound with a warning label he read on day 3, significant vapor release, when heated, ensure ventilation, and a commercial spray bottle of contact adhesive used for the children's craft projects. He also has the maintenance closet, which contains a full roll of heavy steel safety cable left by the facilities team 4 months ago, rated to 800 kilograms tensile load, an industrial-grade staple gun used for flooring repair, which fires 12mm hardened steel staples with enough force to penetrate 6 centimeters of hardwood, a half-empty container of quick-cure epoxy resin. He has a Sig Sauer P226, his own, carried in a compact holster at the small of his back under the caretaker's uniform since day 1 of this posting, because he is the kind of person who carries a firearm the way some people carry medication. Not expecting to need it, unwilling to be without it. 18 rounds of 9 by 19mm ammunition. On this planet, in this gravity against body armor limited. But not nothing. He looks at the kitchen. He looks at the maintenance closet. He looks at the playroom with its 40 square meters of space that he has spent 14 months memorizing. He has 4 minutes. He uses them. The first thing Marcus does is something no one in this palace would expect. The children's play tunnel, a soft fabric structure, collapsible, useless as a barrier, goes on the floor in front of the primary door's approach path. It looks like defensive clutter. It is actually a marker. The section of floor in front of it has been treated with the full contents of the contact adhesive bottle, applied in a 2-meter strip. The adhesive requires 30 seconds to reach full tack. He applied it 3 minutes ago. The steel safety cable he has run at ankle height across the secondary door frame, attached to the frame itself with the epoxy resin and braced with 4 steel staples. The staple gun is now in his waistband. 12mm hardened steel staples, at the velocity this tool delivers them, will penetrate soft body armor and cause significant injury. He would rather not use it that way. He has it because he would rather not use it. The cooking gas canister has a half-scored valve stem. He used the maintenance closet's utility blade, 15 seconds of work, a cut 3/4 through the stem so that one sharp impact will shear it completely and release the pressurized gas in a single violent burst. It is positioned behind the play tunnel, visible from the door, invisible until you are past the tunnel. The sculpting compound canisters, 2 of them are in the kitchen with the heating element running at maximum. They will not explode. The safety warnings are very specific about this. They will not explode. They will release a dense vapor cloud with a strong chemical signature that disrupts most optical sensors and provides approximately 8 seconds of zero visibility cover in an enclosed space. He knows this because he tested it once accidentally on a craft afternoon, and it took 20 minutes to clear the ventilation. He has never been more grateful for a craft afternoon. He checks everything once. He checks everything twice. Then he goes to the children. "We're ready," he says. "Ready for what?" Ethan asks. "Ready for whatever comes," Marcus says. He crouches in front of the boy 5 years old, round-faced, trying very hard to be as unafraid as the adults in the room. "Ethan, I need you to do the most important job." "What job?" "You hold Sorvain," Marcus says. "That's it. You hold her and you stay in the gap behind the cabinet and you do not let go of her no matter what sounds you hear. Can you do that?" Ethan's face does something complicated. Then it goes serious. "Yes," he says. "I know you can." Marcus looks at Liara. "You remember everything we talked about in the drills. If I tell you to go, there's one route dash. Ventilation access above the secondary play area," she says immediately. 40 centimeters wide. I can fit. Thon can fit. Sorvain can be carried. Where does it go? Service corridor on level 13. From there, the northeast stairwell to the roof access. Good. He pauses. "I'm not going to tell you to go unless I have to." "Why not?" she asks, with the precision of someone who wants the actual answer. "Because out there right now is worse than in here," he says. "In here I know where everything is. Out there I don't." So we stay until we know what out there looks like. She considers this. Nods. Are you scared? Ethan asks. Marcus looks at him. Gives him the honest answer because Ethan will know if it isn't. My hands aren't shaking, Marcus says. That's what matters. He shows Ethan his hands. Completely still. Ethan stares at them for a long moment. Then he nods, very seriously, and takes his sister from Marcus's arms, and positions himself in the gap behind the cabinet, and holds on. Marcus stands up. He goes to the main door, puts his back against the wall beside it. He can hear them in the corridor now. He closes his eyes for exactly 3 seconds. Old habit. Reset. Then he opens them. Skarev arrives at the nursery corridor at minute 14 with a 12-person entry team and finds 4 of her prepositioned operatives standing in front of a maglock door with the expression of people who have encountered an obstacle they did not budget for. For minutes on the cutting tool, one of them reports, "The lock is old construction, different metal composition than standard. Our equipment is rated for it, but it's slow." Skarev surveys the corridor, surveys the door, notes the specific quality of the silence on the other side, not empty silence, working silence, the silence of someone doing something. "The human," she says. "What do we know?" Labor Consortium posting. Caretaker. Non-combat designation. Pause. Prior posting Vega Colony. 2-year employment gap before that. Employer listed as dash. Let me see it. She reads the file. She reads the employer registration number twice. She puts her hand against the door. She has been in this profession long enough to know what that silence sounds like. "Upgrade to full engagement protocols," she says. Her people look at her. "He's been alone in there for 14 minutes, she says. "He has a kitchen and a maintenance closet, and apparently he is the kind of human who has a 2-year gap in his file working for a contractor that doesn't quite exist. Full engagement. Move fast." The cutting tool bites into the lock mechanism. Marcus's voice comes through the door, calm, conversational, as if they are colleagues discussing a schedule. "I know you're cutting," he says. "I can hear the tool's frequency. I want to give you some information before you come in." Skarev nods to one of her people. "Keep cutting." "This room has been prepared," Marcus continues. "I have had 14 minutes and access to a kitchen and a maintenance closet, and I have used the time well. I'm not telling you this to brag. I'm telling you because I want you to make an informed decision." "What decision?" Skarev says to the door. A brief pause. He hadn't expected her to engage. Then, "Walk away from the corridor. Leave the children out of this operation. Whatever Pravith is paying you, the situation has changed. The Queen's diplomatic guard will have traced this blackout by hour 6. You have a window. You should use it. The children are the operation," Skarev says. "I know," Marcus says. "That's why I'm still here." Silence. Then, "I'm going to be honest with you," he says. "I don't want to hurt anyone. I want you to hear that because what happens in the next few minutes is going to look like I want to hurt people, and I don't. I just want those children to be alive when the Queen gets home." "Noble," Skarev says. "Futile." "Maybe," he says. "Let's find out." The lock gives. The door opens and the first 2 operatives move through fast professional entry. Stacked, weapons up. Exactly the correct technique. The contact adhesive takes the first operative's left boot at the ankle and holds it. Not completely. It is not a trap, not a cage. It is a fraction of a second of unexpected resistance in a fluid entry movement, the kind of resistance that a body moving fast does not account for, and the first operative stumbles just slightly, and the second operative comes in behind and the timing is wrong and they are briefly, critically tangled. Marcus comes off the wall. He is not a large man by human standards. By Velkareth standards, by the standards of creatures who evolved in 60% of his gravity, with the bone density and muscle mass that such an environment produces, he is a structural event. He hits the first operative with his right shoulder. 91 kilograms of human being, moving at a speed calibrated for a world where everything was always trying to kill him, In an environment where his mass is effectively worth half again its Earth value in kinetic terms, the physics are simple. The first operative hits the far wall. The decorative paneling cracks. The operative does not immediately get up. The second operative has the weapon up. Marcus's left hand redirects it, a downward rotation at the wrist, the specific technique for disarming someone who is gripping hard, which works because the human hand and wrist in Earth gravity can generate rotational force that the Velcareth wrist joint was not designed to resist. The weapon goes to the floor. Marcus's right elbow finds the operative's temple. 2 seconds. 2 operatives. Neither is going to be useful for the next several minutes. He does not stop. Stopping is for when it's over. 3 more through the door. The first hits the ankle cable strung at floor level across the door frame. Steel safety cable, 800 kilogram rated, absolutely invisible in the low light. The first operative goes down and the second, coming in fast behind, goes over the first. The third manages to check, to stop, to not fall, good reflexes, and brings the pulse rifle up. Marcus is already not where she is aiming. He is behind the fallen activity table, which he now shoves forward, solid construction, heavy even in this gravity, and the table catches the third operative across the shins with enough force to sit her down hard. Marcus comes over the table. The fourth and fifth operatives come through the door together. Smart. The right call. 2 simultaneous threats require a choice. He chooses the left one because the right one is leading with a weapon and because he already knows what he is going to do with the right one's weapon. Left operative. Marcus takes the impact of the tackle, goes with it instead of resisting it because going with it controls the direction, and the direction he wants is the wall, and the wall resolves the situation with authority. Right operative. Weapon redirect, downward, left hand. Same technique. Except this time he keeps the weapon. The pulse rifle is a Velcareth military-grade KP-7. He identifies it by the grip geometry and the emitter configuration, both of which he has studied because he studies things. It is set to full suppression. He changes the setting to maximum. He does not shoot anyone with it. He holds it pointed at the doorway. Stop, he says. The 4 remaining operatives outside the door stop. He can see Skarev in the corridor. She has pulled back to a command position behind her people, watching. Her face is doing something controlled and professional, but her eyes are doing something different. He has 5 operatives down in approximately 6 seconds. He has a pulse rifle. His hands are not shaking. Maximum setting, he says conversationally. In a room this size, full spread discharge will reach every corner. I understand that there are children here, and I want you to know that I will not use this setting unless I have no other option, because the children matter more to me than winning this standoff. He pauses. What I will use it for is anyone coming through that door before I'm done talking. Skarev steps forward. 1 step. Into his sight line. How many of us can you take? She asks. Enough, he says. Here's what I know. I've been listening to your team move in this corridor for 22 minutes. Based on footfall, breath sound, and equipment signatures I can identify from the KP-7 sensor suite, you have 8 people standing. Whatever Pravith sent to control this floor, it's 17. I counted on the approach minus the 5 behind me, which leaves 12. 4 of your 12 are currently on sublevel response. I can hear the stairwell door. 8 in this corridor. He pauses. I have 18 rounds in my personal sidearm and 1 fully charged KP-7. You should factor that in. The corridor is extremely quiet. You have a personal sidearm, Skarev says. I have had it since day 1, Marcus says. I carry it the way I carry everything in this household, carefully, quietly, hoping I never need it. Another silence. The human counted our people by sound. One of Skarev's operatives says quietly to no one in particular. He has a 2-year employment gap, Skarev says, also quietly. She does not look away from Marcus. Bring the heavy cutter from sublevel. And get me Pravith. Pravitha's voice comes through Skarev's earpiece 17 minutes later. Marcus hears it faintly, the tinny edge of a speaker being used in a corridor, and he catalogs the tone the way he catalogs everything. Controlled anger, recalibration, the specific quality of a man adjusting to unexpected variables. How many do we have available? Pravith asks. 12 functional, Skarev says. +4 from sublevel response. Send them all. He cannot hold against 16. He held against 8, my lord. He had the element of surprise. He does not have it anymore. Send them. Skarev closes the channel. She looks at the door. She thinks about what she has seen in the past 22 minutes. She thinks about the employment gap. She thinks about a man who has been living in this palace for 14 months, calibrating his every movement to not frighten people, and who has spent the last half hour demonstrating what happens when he stops calibrating. She sends them. They come in pairs. They come with shields. They come with sensor equipment that should, in theory, give them targeting advantage in the low-light environment. The vapor happens first. The sculpting compound canisters have been on the heating element long enough. The vapor release is not a slow seep, it is a dense, immediate chemical cloud that fills the room from the kitchen door ward, and the sensor equipment, calibrated for standard atmosphere, experiences it as a complete whiteout. 8 seconds of zero visibility. Marcus does not need visibility. He knows where everything is. What happens in those 8 seconds is not elegant. He will be honest about this later in the debrief he eventually gives to Thessavara's security chief. It is not elegant, it is not precise, it is the application of overwhelming kinetic force by a body built for a harder world, in the dark, to targets he has memorized by sound and position. He puts down 3 more operatives. The 4th gets him. The pulse strike catches his left shoulder. A glancing blow, not full contact, but enough. The electromagnetic disruption cascades through the shoulder's nerve network, and his left arm goes to about 40% function, which he registers the way he registers everything. Noted, filed, continuing. He falls back to the secondary door. There are 9 operatives incapacitated in this room. The math is working in his direction and against it simultaneously. He is running down, and they have numbers he does not. Talk to me, Skarev says, from somewhere in the vapor. Still here, he says. You've been hit. I've been hit before. He hears her moving. Careful, professional, using the vapor as cover the same way he is. She is good. He has known she is good since the corridor conversation. The way she speaks, the way she thinks, the way she adjusted her protocols when her initial assessment proved wrong. Human, she says. This ends one way. Does it? Your shoulder dash. My shoulder will last longer than you think. A pause. Then, how are you still moving? And he says, because he is tired, and because it is accurate, and because he wants her to understand, genuinely understand, so that she makes a good decision. I grew up on a world where the gravity is almost double this. Where everything on the planet was trying to kill everything else for 4 billion years before the first human ever walked upright. My bones are denser than yours. My nervous system is built to keep this body running past the point where your body would have stopped. I have pain tolerance that your species has not had to develop because your world was never this hard. He lets that sit for a moment. I'm not going to run out, he says. I'm going to keep standing in front of that room until help comes, or I physically cannot stand anymore. And on a death world, physically cannot stand anymore means something different than it does here. Silence. I respect that, Skarev says. And the terrible thing, the thing Marcus hears in her voice, is that she means it. Then respect the children, he says. However this ends, you walk away from them. Whatever Pravith told you they are to this operation, they are 7 years old and 5 years old and 11 months old, and they have nothing to do with palace politics. You walk away from them. A long pause. The vapor begins to clear. Cover for the door, she says. Not to him, to her people. Marcus braces. The next 20 minutes are the part of the story that Skarev will not describe in full detail in any report she files with anyone. She will say later that it was the most professionally difficult 20 minutes of her career. Not because of what she had to do, because of what she watched. He goes down twice. He gets up twice. The first time, a combined pulse strike from 2 operatives at close range puts him on one knee, both strikes landing, both landing clean, the kind of hit that ends engagements with Velkarith opponents. He goes down on one knee and his left arm is non-functional, and there is blood from his forehead where the broken door frame caught him, and Skarev thinks, "There it is." He gets up. The second time, 3 operatives together, full engagement, the way she told them to do it, the correct tactical approach. Drive him back against the secondary door with enough combined force that the door frame cracks behind him. He goes down to both knees. His pulse is clearly visible in his throat. His left arm hangs wrong. She says, "Stay down." He says, "No," and gets up. She does not order another wave. She stands in the middle of the nursery with 12 operatives in various states of incapacitation around her, and she looks at the man with his back against the secondary door and his right hand still raised and his eyes still clear, and she makes the calculation that she will spend a very long time later examining. Is this tactical or is this something else? She still does not have a clean answer. "Enough," she says. Her 3 remaining functional operatives look at her. "We hold position," she says. "We wait for the Queen's response and Pravatha's instruction. My lord's orders were to dash. Pravatha's orders did not account for this," she says. She does not look at her operative. She is looking at Marcus. "We hold." Marcus looks at her. "The children," he says. "Not my target," she says. And then, something she has never said to a human before. Something she says because 14 months of logistics specialist and a half hour of this room has recalibrated her understanding. "You have my word." He searches her face for a moment. Whatever he finds there satisfies him. He lowers his hand 3 inches. Not all the way, but 3 inches. They wait. Thessavara comes through the palace at the head of her guard. The diplomatic transport made re-entry in 41 minutes. A burn that will require the ship's heat shield to be replaced entirely, and which her pilot performed without being asked twice. The diplomatic guard, 12 soldiers equipped to a specification that uses Lockheed Martin pattern rail accelerators and General Dynamics tactical armor rated for Class 4 threat environments, came with her. Pravatha's people, encountering these soldiers at the palace entrance, make the correct professional decision almost universally. The coup dissolves in minutes. Pravath is found in the throne room, where he has been preparing documentation that is now completely irrelevant. He does not resist. He is a rational man. He has lost the calculation. Skarev is found in the nursery corridor, sitting with her back against the wall, weapons down, hands visible. She looks up when Thessavara's guard commander approaches. "The children are safe," she says. "The human needs medical attention. You should hurry." Thessavara does not wait for tactical clearance. She moves through the outer nursery. She counts bodies. 15 she counts in various states. Notes, professionally and with something deeper underneath the professional, that none of them are dead. Moves through the broken secondary door. Stops. The playroom. Her children are in the gap behind the cabinet. Liara with Sorvain held against her chest. Ethan pressed to his sister's side. Both of them watching the door with the wide, careful eyes of children who have decided to be braver than they feel. When they see her, that decision ends. Liara makes a sound she will not make in front of anyone else. Ethan moves across the room at a run. Sorvain reaches toward her mother with both small hands. Thessavara holds all 3 of them. She does not make a sound. She is their mother before she is anything else, and their mother needs a moment that is not on record. She takes it. Then she turns. Marcus Calloway is sitting against the far wall. His medical situation is being communicated to her in a comprehensive visual report by the simple evidence of his condition. Left arm held carefully to his side, blood from forehead and 1 point on his right arm, visible bruising at the rib line, the specific too-still quality of a person managing pain by keeping very still. His right hand rests on his knee. His eyes are open, clear. He looks at her and says, with the specific composure of someone who has been assembling their composure for the last several minutes in anticipation of exactly this. "Your children are unharmed, Your Majesty." Liara was exceptional. Ethan held his sister for 4 hours without once letting go. Thessavara crosses the room. She does not move slowly. Her chief medical officer comes through the door behind her. Thessavara is already crouching in front of Marcus. "Don't stand," she says. His jaw sets. He is going to stand anyway. She can see it, the specific resolution of a person who has decided this is appropriate. "That is a direct instruction," she says. He looks at her for a moment. Then, with visible effort, he stays down. She looks at him. She looks at the room. She has been in enough engagements. She was a soldier before she was a queen, something most of her court forgets, to read what happened here. The cable across the doorframe. The adhesive on the floor. The vapor residue still faintly visible near the kitchen. The broken door. The very specific distribution of incapacitated operatives across 2 rooms. 15, she says. "You put down 15. 14, he says. Skarev held back at the end. She stares at him. 14. 14, he confirms. "None of them are dead. I want you to know that. None of them are dead." She does not know why this is the thing that reaches her. Perhaps because he is sitting against a wall having defended her children for 4 hours in a condition that her medical officer is now cataloging with an expression of controlled alarm, and the thing he wants her to know is that he did not kill anyone. Left shoulder nerve disruption, 3 fractured ribs, 2 hairline fractures right hand, soft tissue trauma dash, the medical officer reports. Then stops. Then, "My queen. He should not be. The suppression pulse alone should have dash." "He's human," Thessavara says. "Yes, but dash. Earth human." She does not look away from Marcus. Class 9. The medical officer is quiet for a moment. Then, Liara has crossed the room. She stands in front of Marcus with the solemnity of a 7-year-old who has something important to say and is going to say it correctly. "You told me it was your job," she says. "Yes," he says. "Looking this up later," she says, with the pedantic accuracy of someone who has already been composing this sentence. "The Consortium Labor Classification for Early Childhood Development and Cross-Species Pediatric Care does not include dash." She gestures at the room. "No," Marcus agrees. "It doesn't." "So why?" she asks. He looks at her. He is very tired. He is in a considerable amount of pain. His answer, when it comes, is not complicated. It does not need to be. "Because you're mine to look after," he says. "That's just how it works." She considers this for a full 3 seconds. Then she nods with the decisive quality of someone who has received an acceptable answer, and sits down on the floor beside him. Ethan, watching this, also sits down on the other side of him. Sorvain, in her mother's arms, reaches toward Marcus with both hands and makes the sound that means she is satisfied with her situation and would like someone to acknowledge this. Thessavara looks at her children arranged around this quiet man, around the human who was always there and whom she never saw, who spent 14 months making himself invisible and then spent 4 hours being the single most visible thing in her palace, and she feels something shift in her, the deep structural movement of a belief she did not know she held being replaced by something larger. She kneels. Not the formal gesture. "I know," she says. "I want all of it." Outside the broken window, morning is coming into the eastern garden, where her guard is already working on the fire. The palace will take weeks to process. Pravith will face a tribunal. Skarev will face a different kind of accounting, one that considers what she chose in the moment when choosing differently was still available, and what that choice produced. The galaxy's administrative machinery will grind forward. But here, in this room, in the blue light of the emergency strips along the baseboard, something simpler is happening. A queen is sitting on the floor of her children's playroom. "Earth," she says. "Start with what Earth actually is." He does not tell her yet about the gap. That comes later, in the long conversation she has promised. When the medical team has done what it can and there is actual tea, imported from Earth, which he keeps in his quarters and which Liara has apparently dispatched Ethan to retrieve, and Sorvain is asleep in her mother's arms and the morning is fully committed to being morning. That conversation changes certain things. It changes the household's security arrangements substantially. It changes the classification on Marcus Calloway's personnel file from caretaker to something the consortium does not have an exact category for, so they create one. It changes the way the palace staff talk about humans, which is to say, they stop saying non-combat designation without adding a pause in which they reconsider the assumption embedded in the phrase. It changes Thessavara. Not entirely. Not in the fundamental structure of who she is, but in the specific place where she kept the belief so common in the Allied reaches, so easy, so self-flattering that certain kinds of capability look a particular way. That it announces itself. That it is visible. Marcus Calloway was visible for 4 hours. Before that, he was invisible for 14 months. Same man. Same hands. Same completely still hands that do not shake even now, even sitting against the wall of a destroyed room in a condition that should, by any reasonable standard, mean something very different. She is never going to make that mistake again. Liara, Marcus says, at some point in the morning, when the tea is gone and the medical team has made their instructions clear and the room has settled into something that is exhausted but no longer crisis. You did the thing. Liara, who has been sitting beside him this entire time with her back straight and her mother's eyes and her mother's absolute refusal to let things touch her until she has decided they are allowed to, looks at him. What thing? She asks. The thing where you decide to be braver than you feel, he says. I watched you do it. At the beginning when I came to get you. You decided. She is quiet for a moment. I was watching you, she says. You weren't scared. I was scared, he says. She stares at him. My hands weren't shaking, he says. That's not the same as not scared. She processes this. It is, her expression suggests information she is going to keep. I still wasn't scared, she says, with the specific determination of a queen in training deciding that this is the version of events she prefers. No, he says, and there is something warm in it. Something that the exhaustion and the pain cannot quite reach. You weren't. Thessavara watches this. Watches her daughter claim her courage and her son asleep against the human's uninjured side and her youngest safe in her own arms. She thinks, the Galactic Labor Consortium has a file on this man. She thinks, the file is approximately 40% accurate. She thinks, I am going to spend a great deal of effort making sure he stays here, where he has decided these children belong to him, where he will fold himself small and careful for the next decade and read bedtime stories and make morning meals and carry my daughter's crown to her coronation with completely still hands. She thinks, I am never going to take invisible for granted again. Marcus, she says. He looks at her. What is your full name? She says. Your actual full name, not the file. He tells her. She repeats it back to him. That, she says, is what I will call you. The morning comes in through the shuttered windows, edging through the gaps in the old hardwood, finding the bioluminescent strips and the scattered evidence of the night and the people arranged on the floor of a small room on the 14th floor of the Eastern Tower. Finding, in the middle of all of it, a human from a death world, who chose, and stayed, and held, and is still here. In the Galactic Labor Consortium's records, the file for Marcus Calloway will be updated 3 times in the following month. First update, employment status, temporary to permanent. Second update, compensation tier, elevated to the classification reserved for senior palace staff. Third update, role classification. Where it used to say caretaker, it now says something different. Says guardian. In the notes field, in Liara's handwriting, she insisted on writing it herself, which required a separate administrative request that Thessavara approved immediately. There is one additional word. Hours.